back from 9 days of riding in Ecuador with Ecuador Freedom Bike Rentals, and I'm going to walk through the gear that I brought and also go ahead and unpack my bag so you can see what was stored where on the bike. For this trip, the temperatures were all over the place, from tropical and warm and humid to cold and dry. I brought our Basilisk, this is a prototype of our new Basilisk Riding Kit, so jacket and pants. Then I've got the City Gore-Tex boots. I brought a force field adventure harness pressure suit. So for these hot and humid climates, a lot of times it's way too warm to have a jacket on. If you wear a jacket, you're sweating all the time. So it's a lot more comfortable to have a base layer, then an armor suit, and then a mesh jersey on top, so the air kind of blows across your body as you're riding. And I keep my jacket rolled up on the back of the bike, but then when we get up to altitude, it's colder, and so then I'll put the jacket on, but pretty much only when it's cold. That's one of the nice things about having armor separate from your jacket, is you can take your jacket off if you get hot. I use Mosko underwear. I've got the force field knee pads, the Shoei Hornet helmet, and these are the some Revit Gore-Tex gloves, which are awesome. And I also use a pair of dirt bike gloves when it's dry and warm. For luggage on this trip, for a 10-day fly-in trip, 9-day fly-in trip, I brought a Reckless 80. This is actually a prototype of the Reckless 80 version 3.0, but functionally it's about the same as the normal Reckless. I've got my Nomad Tank Bag, and I can show you how approximately I've got this set up. I've got a cell phone holder on the front, remote. I carry my battery, spare battery in here for extra phone charge. I was using my phone for navigation. Got a little knife, headphones, in here my passport, batteries, a DeLorme InReach locator beacon, charging cables, sunglasses, and then in the main compartment on the bottom, I've got a map of Ecuador, bike registration, some toilet paper, business cards, headlamp, stuff like that. And then I've got 1.5 liters of water in the bottom of the tank bag. Then I've got my tool roll, same tool roll I use in the States. I had this packed on the outside of the Reckless 80, so it's in its waterproof cover. My tools stayed dry the whole time, even through several days of rain. These are the 3 dry bags that go in the Reckless 80. So I just took these off the bike. I'm going to show you what I've got in each one. I've got my pair of dirt bike gloves. Those are what I wear when it's not wet. I've got a puffy jacket. I've got a sleeping bag. We just bring the bare minimum emergency camping stuff on a trip like this because we plan to stay in hotels every night, but it's nice to have some emergency camping gear so we can head off into the mountains not knowing where we're going to stay, and then if we find a hotel, which we always do, great, but at least we know if we don't, we have a way to spend the night. I've got some long underwear, extra base layer and a rain jacket, or sorry, not more long underwear, extra pair of Moto skivvies, and a wool hat. So that's what I had on one side of the dry bags. On the other side, I have my shoes. I bring full shoes on a trip like this, so a lot of times on our trips in the US where we're riding mostly off-road and camping, I'll just bring a really packable small trail running shoe. But on this trip, I've got proper Gore-Tex hiking shoes because we spend a lot of time off the bike. It's nice to have a proper set of shoes even though they take up a ton of space. I've got my thermarest, some instant coffee, my toiletry bag, and then some dirty socks, an extension cord. I always like to have an extension cord just because a lot of times the placement of the electrical outlets in the hotel rooms here is pretty awkward. They might just have one plug, but Ashley and I have several devices we have to charge, so having an extension cord with multiple outlets is super handy. Some more toilet paper, peanut butter for snacks, got an air pump. I've got one spare tube, and actually we took 2 tubes on this, extra tubes on this trip. Ashley carried one, I carried the other. She has a rear, I have a front. I've got a towel. I've got an emergency bivy sack, so this is just keeps you dry and kind of warm in the event you have to spend the night outside and it's wet. That's made by Survive Outdoors Longer. So this would be really for an emergency night out, not for a comfortable night out. And then I've got a couple of cans of tuna, which is just for emergency food in case we end up spending the night out somewhere. It's nice to have a little bit of food that we can eat, so we're not starving. And then here in the Stinger 22 on the back, in the front, I've got some different medications, just basic stuff like ibuprofen and most importantly, Cipro, in case we have one of us gets a stomach illness. And then I've got some antacids and stuff like that. And then I bring a laptop so I can keep up with work on any of our extended trips or international trips. I usually like to have some way to, keep up with business while I'm traveling. So this is just a little mini laptop. I've got my clothes, Kindle, laptop charger, and that's pretty much it for the Stinger 22. And the only other thing I brought besides all that is my coffee cup. That's everything.